You are listening to the TV Obsessive podcast, brought to you by TVObsessive.com.
Hello, welcome to episode 167 of the TV Obsessive Podcast. My name is Ryan Kirksey, a writer and contributor for TVObsessive.com, and joined once again by Cameron Crane, executive editor for the site. Coming off of some interesting things that I found out at San Diego Comic-Con. Are you one of these that hangs on every piece of news and social media post coming out of this, or is that just me these days?
I mean, somewhat. I wouldn't say I'm hanging on it. It's not like I've got a special Comic-Con feed that I'm hitting refresh on all the time or whatever. But stuff shows up, and there was a good deal. We'll hit on a couple of those announcements here. I think something that didn't make our list, I'm realizing. I also saw some stuff about Carrie,
Yes.
um, which is coming from Mike Flanagan to Amazon Prime in October. And mixed feelings based on what I've read about that one. I don't know. Like I'll check it out,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it did seem like some of the things that I saw, it was almost along the lines of like Flanagan saying like, well, this isn't like the film. Like what like this is going to explain the try. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something about it that made me go like, wait a minute, are you like undermining the
Yeah.
oh, it was I think something about the abusiveness of the mother character or something like that. But
Oh, I
anyway,
see. It's maybe a lot more backstory. I do wonder how you turn that movie, which is a movie I love, actually into a 8 or 10 or 12 episode season. But I guess we're going to give a lot of background and history. I'm going to watch it because it's the sort of catches you at the right time of year. It's Mike Flanagan.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. I can't say the teaser or the trailer blew me away. But I don't know. Maybe I just am too much of a fan of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, it seems like this is something they're doing now. Like we are almost through the run of Cape Fear on Apple TV, which J. Paul Johnson's been writing about for the site. I mean, I appreciate it. And I haven't gotten around to watching it myself yet. It seems like a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Paul was saying like it's kind of fun, but maybe a little messy or whatever. But like the broader point is that okay, so now we're making TV shows out of movies. I mean, but they don't seem to be the ones where like I'm trying to think, have there been times when I've watched a film and thought that should be a TV show? It's like maybe, but I don't think these are the examples.
Yeah, and we'll talk about one of those here in a little bit that is from a series of movies and came out of San Diego Comic-Con. It is funny, so the comment you made a minute ago, because Marvel did not or made the decision to not live stream their panel on Saturday night, sort of the big, event that they put on. I was refreshing Instagram like every minute, waiting for
Sure.
what they're posting and what they're saying and all that. So I had to keep up with it somehow, and that was the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, like I feel like I'll tend to get it just from, I don't know, something like my normal social media use, which at this point for me is Blue Sky primarily. But that, it's definitely picked up there a lot, not, meaning to like kind of endorse Blue Sky necessarily, but I mean, I guess I do, whatever. But they're, I follow a lot of TV writers and film writers. I mean mostly critics, but also people who are like involved in the industry. So stuff will pop up on my feed. I've got a nice mix of that and, like NFL training camp news lately.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, so I don't know if I missed anything. I don't think so because as per usual, I also then preparing for the podcast kind of like went through the websites that I look at looking for news. We're already talking about this. We don't need to be beholden to what our sheet says. Let's just go ahead and
Yeah,
talk
let's
about
do it. Let's do it.
this stuff, and then we'll hit it on House of the Dragon, which you put on here. Some thoughts, but yeah, I mean, you alluded to Blade Runner. I take it. We can start
Yes,
there.
yes.
But I don't know if that would be exactly what I meant. Like they're also making that Crystal Lake series, which is like a prequel to Friday the 13th. This Runner one is more of like a sequel series.
That's
It's not
true.
like they aren't taking the original Blade Runner film and saying, "Can we get 10 episodes out of this?" Which I think is what they've done with like Cape Fear.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, but I have to admit, this is weird for me, and I'm not sure if we've talked about this before, right? At least I'm not remembering. Where are you at with Blade Runner? The reason it's weird for me is I love the original film. like all the versions of it because there are
Yeah,
like at
yeah.
least three, and it's one of those things where like I could maybe even have a conversation about like which one do I like the best? Is it the theatrical cut or the director's cut or the final cut? Because they're all a little different. Um, Still haven't seen the Ryan Gosling movie.
Okay, so part of the reason I put this on here is because I am now about to admit to you that I have never seen Blade Runner.
You've never seen
I
the
have
original
never
Blade
seen
Runner?
it. Never seen it. I mean, it is. We've talked about my TV holes. Blade Runner is one of my four or five, I think, key movie gaps that I have. And I have never, as much as I want to, I've never seen Blade Runner.
Yeah, well, you should definitely see it. And I already mentioned there's multiple versions. I think that I might come down on the director's cut. I'd have to actually refresh my memory a little bit. I think it's the final cut where I felt like, wait, no, you put too much in here. It's too
Yeah,
much. You know what I mean? It's like some subtlety is nice. So like you just watch the theatrical cut. The theatrical cut is good. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't need things spoon fed to you.
right.
Um, but I do love the first film. And it for me, it's one of those things where, as I said, like I still haven't seen the what is it called even? Blade Runner 2049.
2049 is the name of the second
Yeah,
movie.
and it's kind of been on my list, but I've been a little bit unsure. It's like maybe this relates to what I was saying about the different cuts, you know what I mean? Like I don't know if I want more. I don't know if I
Yeah,
want more spelled out.
yeah.
I always kind of enjoyed how with the first film, then there's like room to dream about the surrounding world or what have you, you
Hmm.
know. Um, but yeah, maybe I'll finally watch that film. I don't know if I'll watch. There's an animated series as well called Black Lotus that I haven't seen. Brian Allen wrote on it for the site. He's signed up. He's going to write on this new series. People keep it locked to TVObscessive.com. This is coming November, I think. So. Maybe, and this is a live action series that appeals to me more than an animated series.
Yes, yeah.
And the TV series appeals to me more than a film with Ryan Gosling because I'm a weirdo like that. So like I don't know, maybe I'll watch that film and try to be on board to watch this when it comes out. I did go ahead and watch the trailer and like I think it
Yeah.
looks pretty cool personally.
Yeah, I think they did do a good job. This is, I guess we should say, from Amazon Prime. We believe, well, no, we believe we know that this is coming in November. So this will certainly be a Thanksgiving holiday show, but something where it looks like they're gonna. I'm not sure what we have the news necessarily on how they're going to drop the episodes here. There are a lot of people upset about the announcement they made about how they're dropping Rings of Power season 3 coming up this fall, and so we're not sure how they're going to do this necessarily, but this will come out in November. It does look sleek. It looks like an interesting universe. I mentioned to talk about it maybe in comparison to another show that we're going to talk about here in a moment. And while I will probably put this on my list, I find myself thinking, well, maybe I'd be more inclined to do so if someone like Apple had this. I just don't know if Amazon can do this the same quality.
Yeah, I mean they put out some good stuff, but as you mentioned, I don't think we have seen yet how they're going to release it. And of all of the streamers, Prime Video seems to mess around the most with that,
Hmm.
and it's unfortunate. I think that's fine, but it doesn't seem to be well correlated
Yeah.
to what the series is in a weird way. Like I feel like they're constantly releasing something weekly that I think should be a binge drop, and
Yes.
releasing something as a binge drop I think should be released weekly. I don't know, like.
I think Rings of Power they announced it's going to be like 3-3-4 over 3 weeks. If you're like, that just makes no sense. Like you're going to do two or
Yeah.
three at the beginning, fine, and give it to us one in a week or a binge after that. But 3-3-4 just makes anyway. I can't speak to the segues or breaks in those episodes, but I wonder what they'll do here with a show like this.
Yeah, I think something like a 3-4-4 or whatever. Like, I think that's probably the worst of all possible worlds. I don't
Yeah.
think anyone wants that. It's not just me. I personally settled on, because sometimes various places, including Apple, will like do the first two episodes at the beginning, or maybe sometimes three episodes.
Hmm.
I think I've decided that personally, I think two is like, all right, I get it sometimes, and I don't know that you should go beyond that. Three, I might accept, and once you get to four,
Yeah.
it actually has this weird kind of effect of feeling like it's a barrier to entry or
Yeah.
something. It's like,
Like, oh, you're asking
dude,
me to literally give up a whole night to watch all of these.
you expect me to watch 4 hours of television this week so I can watch one next week? You know? Um, so yeah, we will see about that. We'll see about how Amazon releases this Blade Runner series too. I hope they, generally speaking, we've talked about this many times. I just hope they go weekly on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But who knows if they will or not. Like Spider Noir, I think, was all at once.
Hmm.
Um, and okay, but it's like, did we even talk about that on here when it came
No.
out? You know what I mean? Like, it could be like when something just kind of hits all at once, even if it's successful, it feels like this sort of blip
Yeah.
culturally. And I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, it seems like a lot of the streamers have started to realize that.
And I am at least at the phase I am in, personally, professionally, and with this interest and this hobby of TV and writing about it and criticizing it and analyzing it, I can find room for one 51-minute episode, at some point during the week. But if you say, here's Spider Noir, or here's some other show, and there's 8 episodes and they're all 42 to 59 minutes, I'm going to feel like, well, I need to commit, an eight
Yeah.
hour chunk to do this because, otherwise it just, it's hard to find that in the schedule.
Yeah, and then it's really likely that you do something like put it on your list of things to watch later. You know what I mean? It's like, when do you get to that?
Hmm.
It might be
Hmm.
years. It
Yeah,
might be
exactly.
never, you know? So we'll see. You know what could be fun now that you've mentioned that you haven't seen Blade Runner? Like, you could potentially do something interesting and just start trying to watch a series without ever having
Yeah.
seen the film.
See if there's anything I need to know or exposition I'm missing out on because I haven't seen the movie. What did we talk about doing that with? Oh, Dexter, and I've decided against that. So
Oh yeah, what was it? Maybe it was with the prequel, yeah,
yeah.
which would have been. They're not making any more of that apparently. I don't know. It's
No,
weird because it seems like
no.
on the one hand, Showtime's like, yeah, let's make more Dexter and cash in, but they're
Yeah.
going to keep making the Dexter Resurrection, but I guess they canceled the prequel series,
Yes,
or if
yes.
that's where people just weren't into it enough without Michael C. Hall, I
Right,
guess.
right, right.
Well, I don't even remember anyway. I don't know about that. You briefly alluded to Neuromancer, which is coming to Apple TV, and we've got a date now for January 22nd, so early next year. It's of course based on famous seminal William Gibson novel, the Cyberpunk, man. So, but I think Blade Runner is also cyberpunk. So we're getting a
Hmm.
winter of cyberpunk, or late fall into winter of
Yeah.
cyberpunk this year, into next year. Yeah, those whatever. You know what I mean. Thoughts on this one? Have you read the book?
I
Or
have
not?
not read the book. This, as you said, it's such a cultural touchstone. It is, seeped into the consciousness over the years for what this is and what it's about. So I mean, generally I understand the story and just what I have absorbed over the last 40 years or so. But I did think it was interesting to compare these two announcements: Blade Runner 2099 happening November, Neuromancer coming in late, maybe third week of January. I mean, again, maybe because Apple TV, maybe because the subject matter. This trailer just, I mean, made it look really cool. And made it just sort of really pique my interest in terms of, I don't know, the universe looked a little bit more interesting to me than say the Blade Runner universe. I like the subject matter perhaps slightly more. Again, not knowing a lot about Blade Runner, but Neuromancer will be, I think, appointment TV for me when that comes out.
Yeah, same. I do believe that I read the book like 25 years ago, but it's one of those things where I've got a vague memory and Um, yeah, I don't think I'm going to revisit it before the series, but I am really excited about the series. William Gibson, for what it's worth, is also really
Hmm.
excited about the series. So, I don't know how much stock to put into that. I'd be tempted to put a lot. I'm like, at least, if nothing else, I'm happy that the author of the book is happy. But I don't know if you watched. Speaking of Amazon Prime, they did a series several years ago based on William Gibson called The Peripheral. You ever watch that? I wrote on
Never
it.
seen that.
Yeah, I wrote on it for TV Obsessive, and it was all right, but it felt a little bit. It's unfortunate that they canceled it, I think, because it was one of those things where I kind of felt like it never found its sea legs, or whatever metaphor I might use,
Yeah,
like it
yeah.
didn't quite figure out what it was. So maybe that's part of why they canceled. I know I had fans though. People were upset. It was one of those, you know. But I recall William Gibson was also, well, I don't know if he was thrilled with the show. I don't want to say that because I might not be remembering correctly. I recall him being upset that they canceled it,
Yeah,
but wherever that's
yeah.
worth. Um, but yeah, Neuromancer, looking forward to that. I think, and Brian Allen's also signed up to write on that one. So and we've got Cyberpunk Fall, Cyberpunk Winter in particular for one writer on TVObscast.com. But I plan to watch these shows myself as well,
Yeah. I
and
mean, hey,
honestly,
I can understand you sort of got your lane and got your genre and stick to it. I certainly can sympathize with that.
yeah. Well, Brian does a lot of sci-fi stuff
Yeah,
for us,
yeah.
Foundation and Raised by Wolves, which was another that one was unfortunately canceled. I watch this stuff too. Like we've got similar tastes. So, but yeah, definitely looking forward to Neuromancer. And yeah, it's on my, it's on a tentative list. Even I don't know what we're gonna do for the podcast come
Hmm,
January, but like we could think about it maybe
good idea. Good
if
idea.
there isn't something else that we decide to do instead. More Apple stuff. You mentioned brief tease from Ben Stiller about Severance season 3, something I definitely
Hmm.
think we'll cover on the podcast. And I'll continue to write on whenever we get it. I don't know, man. This does not make me super hopeful that it's anytime soon, though, looking at what you shared here.
The prevailing thought around this I guess it's a post or a tweet or whatever it is it is basically a still image with a Kirikan quote: "To return to work is to return home." And basically the rumor is, okay, well, they're getting back to work, or they're starting production on season 3 right now, which would mean a year,
That's
14
what
months,
yeah,
15
yeah.
months maybe.
So, I mean, like, if you want to be really optimistic about it, because we know that they tend to go pretty slow in terms of the production of this show, which is fine.
Yeah.
Take the time it needs, make it well, and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, I mean, like, it's almost like the most optimistic I could possibly be if they're just like getting into production now would be late 2027 or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to see a possibility of
I
it
did
being
go
any
back and look
sooner.
at some of Ben Stiller's comments about wanting to make a commitment to doing this third season well, but doing it faster than they did in terms of the break between season 1 and season 2. And technically, if we got it at the end of 2027, it would be, there was more than a 3 year gap or slightly over 3 year gap between 1 and 2. So that would be better. But,
Yeah.
I'm of the mind of, yeah, take your time and do it right. But man, I mean, it shouldn't take 3.5 years.
Yeah, it definitely seems like, well, we're doing it faster. We're getting it down to 2 years.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Maybe 2.5 years. Not definitely not three. Regardless, love the show. So definitely looking forward to it whenever we get it. And at least we've gotten a tease, I guess. But it's almost like, yeah, at least that was my feeling insofar as we're interpreting the tease as we are starting to work on it now. It was kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, I would have preferred if you'd already been working on it without me knowing about
Yeah.
it for a while or something like
I
that.
think there were some writing done already,
Yeah,
some episodes written or maybe even the season written. And hopefully this is just the actual real work production. We're getting back to the filming.
right. Because Ben Stiller's primary work on the show is as a director
Yeah.
behind the camera, right? So if you want to read it that way, again, semi-optimistically, if Ben Stiller is getting back to work, that means it is all written. They're getting to filming.
Yeah. If this is we're convening the writers' room next week, then boy, yeah, we got a
Oh
long
boy.
time to go.
Yeah. Yeah, then we are talking about, 3 years in between seasons. Um, Another Apple show, Ted Lasso's coming back. I've told you before I never
Yeah.
watched Ted Lasso. I know you have watched Ted Lasso, but you're not very excited about this either, I
I
gather.
have. I'm really not. The I guess official teaser trailer was released around the time of Comic-Con, and that is widely out there available for you to see. And for many Ted Lasso fans, I'm sure this will be a wonderful news and update and a season that they'll get soon in less than 2 weeks. I just um, it's hard to say that I won't watch it. I don't have plans to watch it. And again, you and I've had this conversation before. By no means do I say that Ted Lasso is the best show or a perfect show or anything like that. But there are some shows that end so well. When they do
Yeah.
something like this, you have to think this is really just everybody coming back together for a paycheck. Apple saying, "Yeah, we'll make the check bigger so everybody can come back and do it." Because it just everything was tied up with every character beat that you would want, and it really was a perfect ending for the Ted Lasso character. And now we see him in the trailer and he's coming back and he's going to coach the women's AFC Richmond team. And so I get it. There's a different spin on it, but just does not appeal to me. I mean, I would have to see some really strong evidence otherwise for me to come back and revisit it.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Something about, I don't know. I know lots of people like Ted Lasso and I've been told multiple times about it. Um, in ways that though still don't make me want to watch it in particular. It's just I don't. And then we didn't talk about the halftime of the World Cup finale before or right after it happened, but
Yeah, that's
the
right.
Ted Lasso appearance on there was just like it's because I think I get the impression from a lot of people that it is in particular that character, Jason Sudeikis' character, and like
Yeah,
his, joie de vivre or whatever that
yeah,
that
yeah.
really kind of gets people going. And it was like, meh.
I mean, you have to be interested in sort of that schmaltzy all shucks, sort of sensibility that he brings to it. That is definitely a part of it. If you're gonna sit down and enjoy Ted Lasso.
Yeah. But oh, as we previously did discuss, I might have to at some point because I learned that Anthony Stewart Head is in it. So
That's right. That's
um
right.
we'll see. We'll see if I can make some time for that. I have been watching House of Dragon every week, as I know you have too, Ryan. You've been writing on it for the site.
Yes.
People have been reading your articles. Um I'm into it. We've talked about it multiple times on the podcast before. I was actually just last night, I was going to bed. And, it's been a couple days since House of the Dragon, but it's like I'm thinking about it. My imagination's going, and I found myself thinking about what a shame it is that the end of Game of Thrones was so bad. And I was playing with that a little bit, like, is there any way I can reconcile myself to the ending of Game of Thrones? And I decided the answer is no, and that sort of
No.
sucks. But anyway, thoughts about House of the Dragon?
Yes, we are three-fourths of the way through season three, and so two episodes to go this coming Sunday and the following Sunday. There's rumors of the finale being like a movie length episode, so we'll see
Oh,
what that
wow.
ends up looking like. But while I thought there were some questionable decisions and things that were unusual about this last episode, largely I would say it is much better than season two. I think that's pretty universal opinion at this point. In terms of the setting up the show in terms of locations, characters, plot, much like the early seasons of Game of Thrones. I think that we're gonna book in this season with quite a bit of exciting adventure, excitement, battle. We definitely had that at the beginning. I anticipate we'll have it at the end. The question that I know, just sort of having understanding the text, is I really don't know where it will end. There's a lot of places it can end, and so that's kind of
Hmm.
a fascinating question for me for the fourth and final season, which we'll probably get in 2 years. But there's a lot of places they can go, and I just say this season has gotten me more curious and more interested in where it will end up.
Yeah.
And boy, they better land the plane better than, as you brought up, Game of Thrones did.
No, so I'm fairly confident they will. I mean, it would be hard not to. Like to play better. But yeah, it's one. This is part of what I was thinking about, or as my, imagination was going, or whatever. It's just like it's kind of interesting to me that this show spent so much time trying to get us to care about the characters in season one. And I'm realizing that now I care about them way more. So eventually, I kind of want to go back and start at the beginning, and I'll probably plan to try to do that before season four comes out at least.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just this feeling like I'm enjoying being in the world again.
Hmm.
And Night of the Seven Kingdoms played into that too because I enjoyed that show a lot.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this sort of thing, like, oh, well, we've got this world of Westeros to kind of play in, and these different stories, and I don't know what all else is out there that they might adapt at any time in the future or whatever. And it's just like, unfortunately, yeah, that ending of Game of Thrones was bad. Like because there were plans at one point they were going to make like a sequel series spin-off,
Yes.
Jon Snow,
Yes.
and that got scrapped. I don't think they actually had any good ideas. But that's the thing. Like, I don't even know what any idea could be for something that comes after
Yeah.
Game of
Well,
Thrones.
they certainly learned their lesson that in the two seasons that they got beyond George R. R. Martin's texts, that they, it crashed in a lot of ways. And so trying to recreate a whole series based on material that
Yeah.
doesn't exist with a Jon Snow sequel or Arya or others would have been probably a disaster. And so they've gone back now, obviously, in our here adapting Fire and Blood for this show, for the Duncan Egg novellas, for Night of the Seven Kingdoms. There was an announcement that George himself made that he is pausing work on Winds of Winter so he can write the fourth Duncan Egg novella, like the official novella for that one. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, this thing took off, so I'm going to spend some time on that as opposed to the thing I'll probably never ever finish.
Yeah. Did you see the thing where the showrunner or whatever, I have to look up his name, apologies, but where he said like we've got our egg, but was talking about the possibility of continuing to make Night of the Seven Kingdoms for decades as the actor gets older with the same actor, like he wants
Yes.
to do a Richard Linklater kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
Apparently, there's like 15 of these things that are outlined and partially written, and he just would need to, fine tune them and publish them to turn them into official novellas. And so it could go. I mean, this theoretically could be the defining prequel that leads into Game of Thrones. So we've talked a little bit about, how that could
Yeah.
be the case, but the time frame would work if he wanted to do it that way.
Yeah. It's interesting. From what I understand of it, I haven't read the source material, Fire and Blood, but I do, to my understanding of what they're doing, kind of really enjoy this as adaptation. If, I think partly from you, you've said what you've said about it. If it's almost like this is you've got like a sketch of the history and then they're fleshing it
Hmm.
out on the screen.
Yeah.
Um, I like that idea. I don't know how much is out there going beyond George R. R. Martin. I don't know how much is out there in the world that could be along the same sort of lines. But
Yeah.
because my general experience when I have both seen a movie or TV show and read the book is I always think the book's better.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, to where I almost don't like it when I've read the book before I see the thing. I prefer to go
Yeah.
the other way around because it's like, oh, now the book's giving me even more rich stuff to think about than I got.
Exactly.
Um, but this sounds like it might be different because it's like more of an outline in the text. I understand it. So,
Yeah.
um,
That's largely right. You just have to think that, yeah, House of the Dragon is an embellishment of a history book told from three different perspectives, basically. And so
yeah,
the book outlines those three perspectives, sort of leaves it up to you as what happened. And this show is meant to embellish and be the definitive sort of answer of what happened in that story.
yeah, with what actually happened. Anyway,
Yeah.
we got a couple more episodes left in this season. I am enjoying that a lot. So maybe we'll hit on it again when it's over.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
been hitting on it almost every week. So apologies to people that listen to the podcast regularly. They're like, oh, care about House of the Dragon. Start talking about
Yeah.
Silo. Well, we are
It,
going to
it
start talking
it
about
it does have a massive audience this year. I will say a growing audience, particularly compared to season two.
it. Yeah, yeah, that seems right. Seems right. It finally kind of caught some steam, and
Yeah,
um, then I think we're only going to get one more season after this. Is that right? Am I right
that's
on that?
correct.
We got
Yep.
confirmed for season four.
That's it.
Um, and same goes, I think, for Silo, which we're going
Hmm.
to dig into here today. We're up to episode 5 of season 3, Tom Memory. And, we'll hit this again on the other side of the spoiler warning, but it does seem confirmed that we're going to get season 4 next year from a post on the X platform, formerly known as Twitter. Anyway, we're going to talk about season 3, episode 5 today. Spoilers will be on the table for everything up through that. We'll put a little bit of music in here and be back with you in about 10 seconds.
Okay, we're here to talk about Silo on Apple TV, season 3, episode 5, titled Memory, written by Catherine DeSavino and directed by Arik Avellino. In a flashback, the immediate aftermath of Juliet returning from the outside and finding Bernard in the airlock is revealed. Juliet was sent to recover from her injuries, but was soon released. Camille tells Robert that Bernard, who barely survived, needs to be dealt with. Just before Robert kills Bernard, Bernard tells him about the safeguard and Juliet's knowledge of how to stop it. Robert decides to come with a plan to install Juliet as mayor so she can't be killed and hide Bernard with Martha and Carla. Eventually, Knox, Shirley, Lucas, and others are brought into the plan that includes Bernard Robert, Martha, Juliet, and Carla. In the present, the team tries to work to get Juliet's memory back by giving her relics from her past, including from her time with George. Nothing seems to work, however, until Robert gives her a Pez dispenser that belonged to Robert's son. Juliet remembers what has she has learned about the safeguard and runs to gather the others to discuss what's next in their plan, which now seems to set up Robert against Camille. Meanwhile, Billings continues his investigation into the supply with Carla and learns that Orla must have died because she was investigating who stole all of the critical supplies from the silo, which they will need to survive. While driving Helen through Washington, D.C., Daniel tells her what he learned from Sam. Someone named Per Stinson was on the USS Nimitz where the Iran mission was deployed from. As soon as Daniel tells her this, something or someone takes over their car and begins driving them to an undisclosed location. Okay, halfway through the season, we
Mhm.
get what was largely a flashback in this episode, and largely also quite a bit of exposition. Very, very
Yeah.
little in the sort of whatever you want to call it, present day Washington, D.C. How did this work as a sort of unveiling of answers for you as we learned about Bernard the week before?
Well, I'm curious for your impressions, and I'm also curious for impressions of others out in the world, beyond my own,
Hmm.
because there was a way in for me in which it was like, oh, okay, it makes sense, but a lot of this was the episode spoon feeding me stuff that I put together last week as we talked through, right? How did it land for you?
Yeah, I thought the same. I thought this was largely a we need to explain things that could have been either implied or understood, or that we could have easily predicted through events that have happened. I liked some of the connective tissue between some of the things we've seen in the past, but also I found myself, even though I thought it's stalled at points. Kind of this was a lot, obviously, in the silo. I wish we had done some more in the other timeline, to sort of balance some of this sort of dump of information in Silo 18.
Yeah, I mean it in particular because the first four episodes of the season kind of created that expectation that we were going to go back and forth.
Yeah,
Um, I did pick up on it pretty quickly that we weren't going to this episode.
yeah,
Um, or at least started to guess that that was going to be the case. Um, and well, we got a little bit, and I was almost happily surprised by that. Even for
yeah,
a
yeah.
moment, right? For a moment, I even thought, "Oh God, it's all going to be a flashback. The whole episode is going to be a flashback," but it wasn't entirely. I don't know. I mean, it's a little hard for me to assess, and we'll just move forward and talk through some plot details more. But definitely for me, it was kind of my least favorite of the season so far.
Mm.
I unfortunately found myself often thinking, like, I don't know, did we really need this? Like, to what extent did we need the flashbacks, particularly with like Knox and Shirley running towards the airlock? And,
Yeah.
it seems like, all right, well, they made this plan to, like, that this was going to be an episode and then figured out how to make it fill the time. And that's the first time
I
this season I felt that way.
I felt that way, especially in the first half. It seemed like there's a lot of discussion about how we're going to build the rig to lower people down, what it's going to take to do this thing that mechanical needs to accomplish. There's a lot of just, sort of operational things that they were figuring out. That's sort of like, yeah, this could have been filled, it seems like, with some something that moved us forward a little bit better. Or the other timeline. Pick one.
Yeah. So like maybe it's okay. It's certainly not the first time
Yeah.
the series has had an episode like this or multiple
Yeah,
instances I can point to
right.
in the first two seasons.
We had a whole episode with Juliet fixing a generator, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. So look, there is a good amount of information here, and fair enough that while I correctly guessed a lot of it, um, I guess I thought they might tie in the stuff with Orla in a way that I guess is not the case. So that's going to be
Mm,
interesting to talk about. That seems distinct. That seems fully separate. We do finally though see Carla, and I was right about
yeah,
Carla and Martha being involved in caring for Bernard and so on and
right.
so forth, right? Um, and Sims, of course, but I think that was the one that was almost, well, it was at least the easiest inference to draw, you
Yeah, it
know?
was sort of a process by elimination. Who else could it have been? Yeah.
Yeah, if you started thinking about it. they did in the flashback give us him cutting a hole in the plastic wrap. Okay. They also I noticed, gave some explanation for the plastic wrap um
Mm.
in terms of the worries a doctor or whatever has about the contamination being possible, and saying like, well, we need to not just a bag, we need to like double bag it. We need a plastic wrap. Like, they didn't seem super worried about it with Juliet, though. When, I mean, it's weird because they filled out so much so explicitly, but then they kind of left this little kind of what caesura or what have you in terms of Juliet becoming mayor.
Mm.
It's like she's still in the med bay or whatever, and it's
Yeah,
not clear if
she
she's
took
going to
the oath of
be.
office from her bed. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's like, is she going to be okay? I don't know. Well, she's mayor now, and
yeah,
um, or like the idea that they start a mayoral campaign while at the same time, like, well, the other guy's dead, but she should be mayor
yeah.
when she's still in the ICU. That felt a little wonky to me, but whatever, I'll accept it. Um, what else? Oh, I mean,
I did like along those lines. I will say, I feel at times throughout this series, Robert Sims has been, a bit robotical and a bit, just follow orders and do the things I'm supposed to do and move from one task to the next. So I sort of appreciated him being a little bit of a strategist, right? What do I do with Bernard? How do I set it up so that Juliet, is this figure that, if anything happens to her, it would be devastating, sort of running this underground PR campaign that gets her elected mayor. Sort of his. While I think it paid off, maybe there was sort of a more sudden shift to sort of towards what Juliet and Bernard's what their intentions are than I would have thought originally. Sort of setting him up in that way and now pitting him and that team against what's going to happen to Camila, I thought was pretty smart.
yeah, no, and I think it all works well. I guess here's a question we could discuss briefly, at least. Where are your feelings when it comes to Sims? Are you feeling sympathetic towards him at this point? And maybe you could also throw Bernard into the same question.
It's interesting. You almost empathize with Robert because he feels isolated. He feels alone. He
Hmm.
feels like his wife is moving on and doing something else without him. He can't even be the shadow or be involved in these things. She's doing all of it without him, and she's just sort of trickling down information to him. And so you do empathize with him a little bit. And now that he is sort of turned more towards we need to understand what's going on here and prevent all of us from dying or prevent all of us from getting our memory erased. I do sympathize with him quite a bit more.
Yeah, I think so. I think I do too. Although I'm a little hesitant to go too far with it. You know what I mean? And it's interesting though, because I think Bernard and Sims, maybe even Sims more than Bernard,
Hmm.
was kind of set up as a bad guy.
Yeah.
Um, in insofar as with Bernard, well, he definitely was too, but there's been a little bit of wrinkle along these lines always
Yeah.
with Bernard more than with Sims.
Yeah.
But I think the move with regard to both of them is along these lines that, well, clearly they've done some bad things and held these positions of power within the silo that have led them to do bad things. They've also themselves also they've been manipulated, as it were, or coerced,
Yes,
right?
that is true.
The level to which they didn't really have much of a choice. So you have, for example, Bernard talking about how Camille now is in an even tougher spot than he was, because when he was the head of
Yes.
IT for almost his entire tenure, he didn't know about the safeguard and all of that. Now she's in a position where she's precisely got the computer telling her, like, well, if things go bad, we're killing everybody. You know what I mean? Um,
And she has no shadow, right? There's no one that's been adopted into that position, as I understand it.
I believe that's correct. Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct. Um, I would guess, making some inferences. This is all relatively surface level, but still. There was one point in an earlier episode where the algorithm said something like, "We're beyond the order
Mm,
now."
hmm.
Well, I feel like they're in this like dangerous crisis space, right?
Yeah.
Beyond what the order has guidance for.
Yeah,
Where what we
yeah,
know is the order is precisely that. It was like, hey, if things start going wrong, here's what you do. Maybe you put these drugs in the water supply or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Um, but they surpass anything the order has guidance about. And they're kind of whatever. I don't know what improvising, I guess is the word
yeah.
I want. And to try to get back into the right sort of space. You know what I mean? So like it would make some sense to
Hmm.
me if we're interpreting it along those lines that no, Camille doesn't have a shadow. No one besides her is allowed to know about the safeguard, right?
That's right. That's right.
Um, and it's even like kind of a problem that she
She
does.
has Emerson and others to do her dirty work, but yeah, in terms of that level of knowledge, no, no one does.
Yeah, they're not allowed to know why. And who's on the list who be eliminated? The people who do know about the safeguard besides her,
Yeah,
Bernard, Lucas, and Juliet, right?
that's right.
Um, So like the idea there, I think almost has to be, well, if we get beyond this crisis, which it suggested they could do if they killed Juliet a couple
Mm,
episodes ago or whatever, well, then you could be back into the confines of the normal kind of structure, you know, um,
yeah.
and then maybe there would be a shadow or what have you. But um I don't think that's what's going to happen in the plot. So
Yeah, yeah, I don't anticipate that. This is coming to a head in some major way, and I do wonder. It doesn't. Just thinking back to Camille and Robert again, it doesn't appear that they will have any more, happy home moments anymore. They appear to both realize that they are at odds. Or do you think that Camille has picked up on that yet?
yeah, insofar as there's definitely there's at least significant tension. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like right towards the end of the episode, there's that scene where they come face to face and it's the tension's there. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but I don't know that there's going to be explicit conversation or what have you. It is part of what's interesting about Robert as a character at this point. I struggle, by the way, because for like the first two seasons of the show, I just called him Sims. But
yeah. Exactly. And now
now
they're
I
two
feel like we
Sims.
might confuse him with Camille. Anyway,
Exactly, exactly.
um, but what was I going to say? Oh, but like the extent to which what he's trying to do is not exactly against what Camille might be okay with doing if they could have the right kind of conversation,
Yeah, yeah,
because her concern is with saving people in the silo, and in particular,
yes.
her family, and ideally not having to wipe everyone's memory, right? So if she was willing to accept the path of murdering Juliet to make that happen, you could imagine she'd be more than happy to accept the path of disabling the safeguard to make it happen. But that's not a conversation or debate they'll be able to have. So it'll be kind of
That's
interesting to
right.
see what their dynamic looks like. Because I don't even know, like, what's Robert going to say now? Is he just going to be like, well, I looked everywhere for Juliet and I couldn't find her?
Yeah,
Seems like that's where he's
yeah.
at, right?
It seems like she knows something, and he knows that she knows something, and so there's may not be many more. Oh, honey, how can I help you with the algorithm today? Type of conversations.
Yeah. But look, I particularly don't know. There's this moment where he says, oh, we've been away for too long. And like he and
Hmm.
Juliet are going back up the silo. I really don't know what they were going to do then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he gives her the Pez dispenser and she remembers and heads back down. But, if that hadn't happened, what? You know, I don't know how they would have. I don't know how Juliet would have gotten out of that one. Exactly. I mean, I guess because she's mayor, she's awake, she's conscious. Camille
Yeah.
couldn't just straight up kill her in front of everyone.
And
Um,
is it your understanding, just because we're now this is, I mean, certainly Chekhov's Pez dispenser. We've seen it so many times this season, and we saw it at the end of season two. He was reluctant to give it to Juliet because it was something that he had used to connect with his son, and he was going to use that as a relic with his son should something happen. I think that's how I understood it, but just wanted your interpretation of that.
that's what he had in mind, apparently.
Yeah,
Yeah, that he was hoping with a connection to his son that it would potentially serve as a meaningful relic if, so like if the vitamin D plus was put in the water,
Yeah.
He doesn't want his son to forget him, and he was hoping this might play a role, so he's been kind of selfishly holding on to it. Um,
But wouldn't he? This is just sending me down a rabbit hole, but wouldn't I guess maybe he thinks his mind is not going to be wiped in that scenario because if it is, then he just wakes up with a thing in his pocket. He doesn't know what it is and tosses it or whatever. I mean, I guess he thinks he's exempt from the mind drugs.
no, I don't think he does. I agree though. I don't know that it holds up this aspect of
Yeah.
it. They have put that in there, and he's got some, maybe vague, not quite rational thought that the pest dispenser will help him and his son maintain their relationship, even if their memories have been wiped.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think he even maybe says that that's not really rational.
Yeah.
My,
But at
my,
that point,
my,
you're just holding on to something if you're threatened with, being separated from your family or your memories. You're just holding on to anything you can.
yeah, my bigger complaint is that he waited this long because
That's right.
Juliet has a connection to that. He knows Juliet had a connection to it and all of that, and he's withholding this,
Hmm.
while they're having this conversation. They're trying to like give her kids' toys or whatever. I guess they were her toys, but that doesn't
Yeah.
do much. The watch does a good deal. But like the fact that he didn't come around to trying to give her the pest dispenser until they were already walking back up the silo. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's like, yeah.
yeah. And I don't know, I don't know that I don't know if appealing to Chekhov's gun is quite accurate, because that line is that if a gun's introduced in the first act, it has to go off by the third act, something like
Yeah.
that. And I don't know what that would mean for the pest dispenser to go off, Maybe it's a MacGuffin. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's right.
I don't know what
That's right.
term is it. I feel like it. I do increasingly feel like it's almost just this signifier that doesn't necessarily have a deeper meaning,
Yeah.
but is there throughout the story. And you go, well, how does that connect up, right? So the biggest question I have is, excuse me. Um, biggest question I have is just like, how did it get in the silo in the first place?
Yeah.
So,
Is
but
is it the one we saw at the end of season two? Yeah, I think that's the big question is that, however long we're talking about, does it made its way from, Helen's pocket into where Robert has it now?
yeah, so let's go down that path a bit more. Let's talk about Carla and critical supply a bit more.
Yeah.
We don't really get more information about who killed Orla Kent per se. Carla thinks it's because she had tasked Orla with helping her investigate the apparent thefts from critical supply. All right. But then she reveals to Paul Billings and us
Hmm.
the deeper thing here, which is that because of these thefts, I guess someone's been stealing from critical supply. Well, and I wonder why, and so on and so forth. A lot of emphasis put on light bulbs, but probably other stuff.
Yeah.
I've wondered about the sustainability of the silo, but we're told here explicitly it's not, right? There's some
Mhm.
stuff that has been here from the beginning. We can't make more of it, like light bulbs. Those include like grow lights for the farms or whatever. They're supposed to have 50 years left, but Carlos says where it stands right now, we're down to 2 years, man.
Yeah. In
Um,
in 3 months, they went from, do I understand that correctly? In the 3 months she's taken over supply, that it went from 50 years to 2 years, or did I mishear that?
mm,
There was such, she talked about some time frame she's worked in supply or critical supply. For some reason, I thought it was months. Maybe it was years, but regardless, in some relatively short time frame, they've gone from 50 years to 2 years.
I think that what it might have been was that she was saying when she discovered that stuff was missing
Hmm.
or something like that. I have to double check.
Got it.
I
Okay.
guess I didn't put a lot of weight on that question myself, but yeah, I mean, because I'm busier just wondering, well, wait a minute, who's stealing from critical supply and why? And if they're stealing
Yeah.
light bulbs, what are they doing with those light bulbs? I'm really curious about that, but then maybe I went too quickly to even the bigger picture type question I started wondering about here.
Yeah, I was curious about this because it does seem to open the door to a pretty massive question and mystery, not only as to who, but yeah, why. And then you can start getting more granular questions about like where are you going to hide this stuff and what are you going to use it for and what's the purpose and all this. But who would be taking these things and for what purpose? I just can't, other than someone trying to sabotage the silo, I can't put my head around what they would need these things for.
I mean, yeah, the only rational thing I could think of almost would be someone sneaking in through the mine tunnels from another silo,
Yeah, yeah.
which I suppose is a possibility. Maybe it's going to open us up in that way. But the the other question is, all right, man, what was the plan here? You know what I mean? Like, if they only have 2 years left, all right,
Hmm.
that's really pressing, right? We've been doing this podcast for more than 2 years. Goes by just like that, you know. But like, even if it were 50, what was it like? Were, was the plan for it to only be 400 years in the silo? And if so, is that based on some projection that after 400 years it'll be safe to go outside? Or the direction I'm leaning more in is more paranoid.
Yeah,
Was the plan that they're never going to go back outside and it's like a
yeah,
400-year experiment or something like that?
yeah. And some of this, some of this is explained in the second book, and
Yeah,
so
sure.
certainly won't comment on that. Um, but yeah, there seems to be to your point, a finite amount of things for a specific reason. And so yeah, what is that reason other than, we can guarantee that after this much time it will be safe, or we are going to go down a path of we don't want you to have this material after a certain amount of time. That's either of
Yeah.
these things are worth pursuing if we can do it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, right. I'm not surprised there's more information in the book, which you can't share. So I'll lay out my theory more. And I did this in the article I wrote for this week, too, if you want to go read my recap on TVObscast.com. But it's not, I feel like something about the theory's wrong. Like I'm not, I do not feel like there's any chance that I'm completely right in what I'm about to say. But this is where I find my mind going that, um, and this ties in something we do get in the end of this episode with Helen and Daniel. There's not a whole lot there, but the one
Right.
line about some guy named Pierce Stenson, and Daniel says something like he's the number one advocate for AI control. All
Hmm.
right. Well, does that mean we're controlling AI, or does that mean we're being controlled by AI? So I'm kind of going in the latter direction there and imagining that the whole point of the silos actually is to train the algorithm. Um, and such that the people living in the silo are just like test subjects,
Mm.
and they're going to run out of these critical supplies at a certain point, but that's just the end of the experiment, right? So they're willing to kill them off before that if they have to. That's the safeguard. But if not, then well, at the end of the time frame, they'll just destroy all the test subjects that are left. This is how like scientists treat lab rats and bunnies and stuff like this.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
The biggest reason, the biggest thing I find sticking in my mind against this is about the time frame again. And of course, I've been wondering for a long time whether they've actually been in there, for a shorter period of time than we've been told. 'Cause I don't buy the patience of 400 years. I mean, there's hubris to it as well to imagine that you could like set up a 400-year experiment and people would still be around to care in 400 years.
Yeah.
But like in terms of thinking about any possible motivation, I also couldn't see the patience of it. So
Yeah. Like who is this person and why would he set up an experiment that long? And yeah, what would be the point of doing that?
yeah, so I feel like at very least I'm missing something with that kind of path. And I do continue to wonder if somehow it hasn't been 350 years because the one source of information we got saying that was the algorithm itself, which I don't trust that. But there was the other one, which was the guy in the mines, Harwood, saying that based on the mining activity, it estimated it's been like 350 years. And that would have to take us into, that they built a silo with evidence that it was older in the mines than it actually was or something, which I suppose is
Yeah. Yeah.
possible. But yeah, I don't know.
All of this stuff you're saying, I have a prediction of what in the finale they will reveal in this
Yeah.
season. And all of this stuff is tied into what I think will happen there. And I'm really, really looking forward to dissecting it if that's the case, because I think that all of these things, are related to one another.
Yeah. That's a, I feel like I'm close to figuring it out, but far away at the same time. It's like there's definitely a missing piece
Yeah,
or
yeah.
there's something. And so I hope they pull it off well to where when we do get whatever reveal it is, it just feels almost feels like I should have guessed in retrospect, but I didn't.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like I feel like the best kind of twist or reveal is along those lines where you're like, oh,
yeah.
of course, or something like
Yeah.
that. But you didn't see it coming. You're just when it
Yeah.
happens, you go like,
Yeah.
right, okay. So I don't know. We'll see. One other thing I did want to mention that happens in the silo in part because I didn't even find a way to work this into my recap article, unfortunately. I figure it will relate to something later, but it
Mm.
was one of those things where in my article it would have just been like one line and saying, and by the way, Martha's playing with a radio. And that's about all I've got here as well. But I do want to mention, by the way, Martha's playing with a radio. And Bernard says something about Silo 1 surveilling the channels, and that's about all we get.
Yeah. And then learning, apparently, Martha never having heard the word channel before, learning what
Yeah.
that is and what that means. And yeah, Bernard for giving a little bit of explanation for that. I think that I imagine that's purposeful. I imagine we'll return to that. Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I did wonder about, him saying that Silo 1 surveils the radio channels or whatever. Kind of an interesting tidbit to play with, right? I mean, there is some suggestion then that there is like Silo One, which is somehow not just one amongst others, but separate. And I think that Bernard told us last season that there are actually 51 silos too,
I think that's right.
which makes me think that maybe like Silo One is not part of the 50. I don't know. I don't know. But that just a little nugget in there. We'll see where that
Hmm.
goes.
Hmm.
Um, it's immediately interesting if it's opening up some possibility that Martha can either make contact or hear even
Yeah.
things that are happening
Yeah.
in other silos. That's really intriguing. So I did want to mention that briefly.
If they can discover a way, yeah, not just for another silo to surveil them, but for them to listen in on another one, that would open up a whole world of things we could be looking at.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like she's at very least trying to do that, right? She's
Yeah.
like trying to change the frequency on the radio to be able to tune in the broadcast from another silo,
Yep.
basically,
Yep.
So I mean, she seems relatively close to that. I don't know if there's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if this is like AM frequencies or what, but that's what I was kind of imagining. Or what, short band would be even, whatever, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's going to matter in some way moving forward, though. Um, let's see. I think we've pretty much covered stuff in Silo 18, unless there's more you want to say there. We probably should say a little bit more about what we do get in the before times.
Yeah, yeah, I think we should. Again, very little in Washington. We get a name of someone who is, as you outlined, this advocate for AI control, whatever that means. Is that what it is that takes over their car when Daniel and Helen are together and they're on their way to do or meet with someone? We won't necessarily say it here, but there is one big, casting name that has not been included in this series yet. So if you want to
Yeah.
find that, you can. But it'll be interesting to see how this person or what they do is sort of rolled into what's going to happen in the before time. But I certainly imagine it's there to help us uncover what happened with Charlotte and what was going on in Iran.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know about the loss of control of the car. I risk a real world tangent. Like wait, when did the self driving cars actually happen? I feel like I missed something almost. Like it was for years we were talking about it, and then all of a sudden people were like, "Oh, it took a Waymo," and I'm like, "Wait, what does it? What? I don't even understand how this." It would sound like a luddite for a moment, but like I don't understand how those things are legal. It's like I drive a car. I had to get a driver's license.
Yeah.
Did that have to get a driver's license? Did it have to do a written exam? Anyway, like I don't feel like you'd should have to ban it. I feel like the existing laws should have been more of a barrier to just doing it.
Yeah, those
but
are
you know,
they Waymos have recently been unveiled in Houston, so they're starting to be all over the place around here.
yeah, I think that what it comes down to is, that slogan the tech bros have about moving fast and breaking things,
Hmm.
that I'm just like diametrically opposed to that.
Yeah.
Like, well, I want to say move slowly and make sure you don't mess anything up.
Yeah,
That's the slogan
right.
I want. And
Especially when
to
it comes with driverless cars. Yeah.
to like govern the world. You know what I mean? Like just all over the place. So we need to have some changes. Like make sure you're being careful about it.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? I don't know where that man. Anyway, that's something of a side note. Pulling back to the series, yeah. I'm led to imagine that they're going to be taken by this vehicle to, well, what, Pear Stenson or some other muckety muck in power or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, last episode Daniel said something like he rented the van from a, a flyer on a lamppost, which
Yeah.
I never encountered. I don't think that that is a real thing
And
that
how
you
many
could do.
and how many vans that you're getting off flyers and lampposts have self-driving capabilities? That's the real question.
So last week I was saying like, well, okay, I guess I'll just accept that. Although I was like, I've
Yeah.
never seen such a ridiculous thing, and I feel like I'm savvy enough in the world that if I did see a flyer at a lamppost, there's no way that I would trust it. Apparently, Daniel not so savvy,
Yeah.
because putting it together, it has to be that that was just a trap, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So I want to see the flyer. You know what I mean? Like I'm imagining it's like the flyer says in big letters, like rent a car the NSA cannot find. These little pull tabs with the number on it. It's like definitely safe from all surveillance. Where, like you can't rent a car from anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
I will say, now exactly halfway through the season, I I think that what they did in this episode might down the road lead to a mostly before times episode.
yeah,
I am a bit surprised that they're not further along with this conspiracy than they are, considering not just what happens in the story, but what we've seen in the trailer and what some of the things are that are shown. It, I think they need to do. I think they have a lot to do over the next 5 episodes, and so I'm curious, how much more time we spend in DC. I hope we don't have many more episodes where we don't spend time there because I think it's important that we do.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at this point, even if it's like next week is pretty much all in the before times.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, which works. That's fine. That's fair enough if that's what they're doing. I did really appreciate how for the first few episodes of the season they went back and forth
yeah.
and had a way to kind of thematically connect them anyway. And
Yes,
maybe as they proceeded with the season, that just didn't work quite so well. So we've got this one that focuses almost entirely in the silo.
yeah,
And then, okay, well, maybe the next one will be almost entirely in the before times.
exactly.
But
Yeah, I do wonder, having not watched ahead, I do wonder, well, what we'll see or if that will happen.
yeah. Well, I mean, and it would make sense to me too, in insofar as like I don't know how much more I expect to happen in the silo this season.
Hmm.
So I hope they don't spin their wheels too much or whatever. But if what I'm imagining is okay, well, like the end of the season is them disabling the safeguard. You know what I mean? It seems like that needs to happen pretty soon, or they're in deep trouble.
Yeah,
You
I
know what I
mean,
mean?
they were carrying up the stuff up the stairs 2 episodes ago to put in the water. I mean, yeah, they can't wait, 10 more episodes from now.
Well, no, like in narrative time, it needs to be like that a day. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
right.
So, like, how long are you going to drag this out in terms of episode runtime? So, we'll see. Definitely still really enjoying this season. Always a pleasure to talk about it with you, Brian. Anything else you want to hit on this one before we wrap up?
That covers it. We're looking forward to hitting the second half of the season next week.
Absolutely, yeah. So, thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Hopefully, you've enjoyed it. If so, please do hit, give us a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate it. Check out TVObscessive.com. You can find written work on all sorts of TV shows there, including Silo. I'm writing recaps on this season. Um, if you want to follow us on social media, if you search for TV Obsessive, you should find us. And as for the podcast, we'll be back next week, continuing to talk about Silo.
All right, looking forward to that. See you then.